how were you treated by the prison itself? We've read all sorts of stories about January 6th people who had pretty difficult treatment, solitary confinement, that sort of thing. How was your treatment?
Well, in D.C., when I was in the D.C. jail or D.C. gulag, that was the first time I ever experienced racism in my entire life. And then after I got moved to Alexandria, Virginia, I was in solitary the whole time, so 10 and a half months. They said it was for COVID, and then they said it was for my protection. But the thing is that when they transferred me to other locations, they put me in general population. So then that goes right out the window. These reasons go right out the window. I think, personally, that it was more so about trying to break my spirit than it had anything to do with trying to keep me safe or, keeping COVID at a minimum or whatever.
You were in solitary confinement for 10 and a half months.
10 and a half months.
How did you keep any of your wits about you in that time? That seems like torture.
God, my shamanic breathing techniques, prayer, meditation, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I experienced some miraculous things in solitary. A good example would be, so when I was in Florence, Arizona, when I first got arrested, they just arrested me based on misdemeanor charges, okay?
The misdemeanor charge was like trespassing or something?
Yeah, parading on Capitol grounds, that kind of stuff. And then about 4 or 5 days in, they slapped me with 2 felonies. And then the maximum sentence for those 2 felonies was 25 years total.
So as I read, again, I don't know that I should believe any reporting on you or January 6th, but what I read was the felony was obstructing an official proceeding?
Yes, and then the other one was basically rioting.
Okay.
Which they had no evidence that I was rioting.
25 years.
It's a maximum sentence. So, and the judge that I had when I, pleaded guilty and at my sentencing, I said, I thought I was looking at 25 years in prison. He said, if you would have gone to trial, he said, you did the smart thing, because if you would have gone to trial, you were looking at something like 20 years.
So you avoided trial by pleading guilty?
Yes.
And apologizing, saying you regretted it?
Well, I don't want to go too much into that because of the motion, but long story short, the experience that I had after those felonies were slapped on me, right? I'm freaking out. I'm in a cell. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what the hell? God, show me you're with me. Show me that you're hearing my prayers. Give me a sign, please. I had a Bible in my hand. I said, I'm gonna close my eyes and I'm gonna open this Bible and I'm gonna point to a random verse with my eyes closed, and I need you to speak with me. Tell me you're with me. Tell me that this is gonna be okay. So I close my eyes, I open the Bible, I point to a random verse, and the verse was, I am yours and you are mine. I have redeemed you and called you by name, O Jacob. Oh yeah. And that just rocked my world. Because the statistical likelihood that would happen is so astronomical, that my name would be in it, of all things, talking about redeeming me, I'm yours, you are mine, whoa. And there was other things, for example, I'd be in my cell in solitary confinement in Alexandria, and I'd be praying and praying and praying during the day, and God, why? Why'd you ask me to go through this? Why'd you ask me to do this? This is so hard. The media's lying, the government's lying, and I can't do anything about it. I can't defend myself. Please give me a sign that you're still with me. Give me a sign that not everybody believes this stuff, etc. And then that night I would get letters, a stack of letters. And then I'd read the letters, and there'd be biblical verses in those letters that correspond with my prayers. Or there'd be people that are being like, we don't believe anything in the media. We know that what they're saying is a lie, and blah, 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 blah. We're supporting you. We're praying for you, all of that stuff. So now here's the interesting part. The letters were dated a week prior to my prayer. So people sent the letters out a week before I got them. So that means that God had somebody write a letter a week prior to answer my prayers a week later.
That's a notion of providence, right?
Divine providence, that is correct.
So, wow, that's really beautiful. It must have been very encouraging.
Yes, well, and then to have Tucker Carlson release his footage 3 weeks before my release.
Yep.
And it was just enough time for people to be outraged about the fact that I was still in prison. And it was also just enough time to exonerate me in the court of public opinion before I was released. You see?
Coincidentally, I was on his show that night, and I didn't know about it. I don't watch cable news.